I have a lot of friends who teach with me at Alabama State University who knew me when we were at Tuskegee. And it upsets them because I am not the radical kind of person that I was then. But to me, things are different. You have to handle things differently now. Where we could get a picket sign and go out and march, it's not always expedient to do that in today's situations. To me, you have to handle things a little bit more diplomatically, but you can still get the same kind of effect, but do it differently. And this one individual expected me to be the same kind of individual I was then. But I'm still there, and I still make a difference, and she's not.
If your sons were there at the time of the struggles, would you encourage them to be involved in the demonstrations in the same manner that you were?
I don't think I'd encourage them. I've always tried to allow them to make their own decisions. I do the same thing with my students now. In many instances when there were marches or whatever taking place, because some of them know of my involvement in the movement, they'll come and ask me if they should participate. I don't think that's my call. I think that it's their decision to make. Then if they need information or whatever, I can give them that, but to push them out there, no, I don't think I'd ever do that.
Mm-hmm. Where do you see the movement today, and how can we learn from what happened during the 60s to move the movement forward? Where are we?
It's interesting that you would ask that, and I'm going to say something that a lot of people have looked at me very strangely for. Being an educator, I feel that in many instances, integration has hurt us. And the reason I say that is because in my day, when I was in school, we may not have had anything but a test tube and a frog and a lab, but those teachers taught us. But many of the students that I'm seeing now have come from integrated situations, elementary and high school situations. These kids have so many deficiencies. And my feeling is it's because we have so many teachers in this integrated situation who don't care. They just don't care. Our teachers made sure we took the math, we took the science, these courses that were going to assist us when we got to college, college preparatory kinds of courses. But nowadays, students can take basket weaving if they want to. Nobody cares. They have different kinds of diplomas you can get. And you know, when I was at Ullman High School, you got a diploma and that was it. But now you have a diploma if you intend to go to college, you have a diploma if you don't intend to go to college, you have a diploma if you're in special ed classes, you see what I'm saying? And to me, that hinders our students. I teach developmental courses on the college level now. These are kids who have deficiencies in math, English, and the sciences because nobody cared back here. It's not that these students can't do it, because if they run into a good teacher in the developmental program who spends the time to show them or assist them in getting what they missed back here, many of these students have gone on to graduate. So in that instance, I think to a large extent, integration has hurt us. But by the same token, I wouldn't change anything that I went through to get to this point. Now, I've had my knocks and bumps too. I got a master's degree at the University of Montevallo, and in many instances, I was the only little speck in the class. I got a doctorate degree at the University of Alabama, same thing. And it was interesting how in many instances, they would forget that I was the only one there, and little things would come out, you know, and little prejudices would, you know, be shown.
Why do you think then it appears, and you're saying that rather than actually improving our status, we have in many ways digressed?
I believe we have.
Why do you think, where do you think the movement failed? Where did we fail?
I don't think we failed, it's just that I don't think we have anybody to continue on. We didn't get all the way there, you see what I'm saying? Okay. I don't think we have any leaders like we had then. And I really cannot see where this next leader is going to come from.
But some of those same people that we talked about are still on the scene.
But they're not doing. It's almost like, now I know Jesse Jackson. Jesse Jackson's a fine individual. I remember meeting him at one of our retreats in Frogmore, South Carolina. That's when Dr. King turned the Operation Bread Basket over to him. But there are too many people who are doing self-serving kinds of things to me.
For instance, what do you mean, self-serving kinds of
putting
things?
themselves in the political arena. It's not about the race as a whole anymore. Dr. King put his life on the line for us as a people. Yes, he got a Nobel Peace Prize and he did a lot of other things, but his main focus to me was always, I don't care about all these negative things you've heard about Dr. King. I never saw any of those things. And I mean, even at the A.G. Gaston Hotel, to see him take a drink, I never saw him. I've seen some others take a drink here and there. But Dr. King would sip on his ice or whatever else. Dr. King, and I was with them for a couple of years, was always on the straight and narrow as far as I'm concerned, or as far as what I could see. But he was always for the people. And to me, a lot of our so-called leaders now are not. It's almost like where I can go or how far I can go to get where I want to be, but it's not about the masses of the people.
Do you think it's necessary to have another Dr. King to come on the scene?
I think we're going to have to.
You don't think?
Because listen, like I say, I teach on the college level.
And you have a doctorate degree in what area?
Well, my master's is in speech pathology, and I have a doctorate in special education with a concentration in speech pathology and administration.
Okay. And you're associate professor at
Alabama State University. Okay. And I also teach at Troy State University, Montgomery.
Okay.
But I teach a group of students who barely know who Dr. King was. If you ask them what SCLC is, they don't know.
Why? Why not? Why don't they know?
My favorite saying is, he who does not know his history is doomed to repeat it. And these students have not been exposed. I mean, they have history, but it's not our history, you see. They have American history. They talk about all of this other stuff. I'm in the process now of trying to get an African-American lit class right there on campus, because these students need to know, these kinds of things. Are you having difficulty in doing that? Well, to a certain extent, yes, I am. Because the curriculum is set and nobody wants change, you see. But even though I teach speech, I don't just teach speech. I teach speech, I teach English, I teach history. I teach, I'm trying to get our students to a point where they can articulate better. Even when I go on and I do workshops at white schools or black schools, I talk mainly to our black students. Now, there's some white students who need help. If you need it, you take what you can from, but I'm directing what I'm saying to the black population.
We have covered an awful lot of territory today, and you have been very gracious in sharing your experiences with us. Is there anything else that we may not have touched base on that you would like to include in this tape?
I can't really think of anything else, except I guess I wish our colleges and our churches, I just think that there's so much more we could be doing as it relates to educating today's population about what went on then and things that they can do now. Because I can envision, to me, if we're not careful, we're going back. You know what's happening with affirmative action.
Sure.
And if we're not careful and we don't get out there and do something and make some waves, I can see us digressing. And I think we need to start with our children and educate them to a point where they can assist us in fighting for, because actually our fight is more for them now. You see, I'm 52 years old, and I want it to be better for those coming up behind me.